Finally, as promised, back here in New York and a kind of postscript to last week's special comment about the health of my father and the discussion of end-of-life care, what we deemed here the life panels, and also some of the reactions to them. First of all, to update you on my father's health. Last Thursday at noon in the hospital not far from here, my sister and my nephew and myself gathered with my father's surgeon nurse to discuss a timetable of sorts, to discuss when to, in effect, start changing his care from restorative to palliative. What we laid out is a little bit too personal for me to go into in depth, but I will tell you this much. We left ourselves an out. His white blood cell count, which is, if you're at all familiar with medicine, was at a horrifically high level of 54,000. Needed to drop, and drop quickly, or there would be little hope. And so, having followed his instructions, including those instructions about when to apply my best judgment instead of his own, and with him still largely unawake, if not exactly unconscious, we laid out this rather grim bit of business. We didn't like it, but we knew we were working from his instructions. Our little life panel, along with the consultation of doctors and this doctor's nurse, was invaluable to us. And so we laid out all of the plans with that one caveat. If, say, each time there was a new white blood cell count reading, it was 10,000 less, we'd revisit and revisit in a hurry. By 6 o'clock that night, it was 10,000 less. My father has not regained wakefulness, but he is more responsive now, and here these many days later, in fact, his white blood cell count is about 2/3 less of what it was. And so this brings the issue of flexibility to your end-of-life discussions, which, again, I urge you immediately, tonight if you can, no matter which part of the equation you are in or if there is no equation yet, to have these conversations with your loved ones now, because you will know what they want, and at least you will know you've had the conversation, and whatever you are guesstimating from, you've already talked to them about the essence of it. And so we continue to help him try to regain his health. If he does not succeed in doing that, we can again turn to palliative care later on. But clearly, that flexibility, to be able to say, no, it's nearing the end, wait a minute, maybe it's not nearing the end, is the essence of what is permissible and what is to be encouraged in our society, to have that conversation in advance and act accordingly. And in the healthcare reforms that have been proposed, the only difference in this process would be that the doctor who helps you with these conversations can bill the insurance company for them. So you're not guessing on your own, you're guessing as much as he is, and with him present. That is the entirety of what has been fabricated into by unbelievably incompetent and unknowing people on the far right into the quote-unquote death panel. There is no death panel. And this brings me to some of the reactions from the right to this topic, death panel versus life panel. We start with Rush Limbaugh. Mr. Limbaugh went on the air and said, "Trust me, there is a death panel." That's all he said. He offered no proof. He offered no evidence. He didn't even quote anybody. I don't know about you, but if Rush Limbaugh asks me to trust him, I immediately check to see if my wallet is still in my back pocket. There is no death panel. This brings me to the reaction of Glenn Beck. Mr. Beck, while saying what I believed were sincere good wishes to both me and my father, then immediately turned around and said, I didn't understand about the death panels, that what Sarah Palin was talking about was not these end-of-life discussions, not what we have called life panels, but in fact something else. He is, of course, entirely wrong. He has no earthly clue what he's talking about. He presented no evidence. The only evidence he has ever presented as to the supposed existence of these so-called death panels is to quote Sarah Palin. And Sarah Palin's spokesman admitted that what she was talking about was a proposal made by Congressman Blumenauer of Oregon to establish the right for you to get the insurance company involved in paying for the physician who helps you with your life panel discussion. If there was any doubt about this, I turned to a letter I received after the comment was raised last Wednesday from Congressman Blumenauer, who said he only wished he'd had the presence of mind to call them life panels. We can call them life panels now. The discussion about end-of-life care is all that there is in healthcare reform, the right for you to bill a doctor to help you through this most trying and necessary and salvation-like time, the thing that will guide you through a situation if you are in that I am in and my family is in with my father right now. You get to get it reimbursed from the insurance company. That's it. There is no death panel. I wish there was no Glenn Beck to make up stories about death panels. We're going to have to live with Mr. Beck. But it does raise the question of why Mr. Beck's efforts are being supported by an honorable organization called the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, which has somehow gotten mixed up with these events he has planned for next August in Washington. Mr. Beck is making it up, pulling it out of some orifice or another for whatever purpose we do not know. And yet this fine and honorable organization is somehow associated with him, and perhaps they should reconsider that. And lastly, in terms of reaction to last week's special comment and the concept of the life panel, I am indebted to the Tea Party of Dallas, Texas, which, as you may know, invited me to attend its gathering on Saturday to prove that it was not an all-white nor nearly all-white organization. When I explained that I was not traveling to attend to my father in this time of his need, they said nothing about that. On Saturday, when they got up and made their little speeches and invoked my name and my non-presence there, they mentioned only that I was not there and did not give a reason for my absence. I am indebted to them because they have proved my point about the nature of this organization. I don't know to what degree racism really applies to the whole Tea Party movement, nor the Dallas one in particular, but it is clear to me that people who would leave out that vital bit of information about why I would not attend and mock me for not attending are not really people anymore, are they? Lastly, I mentioned last week, and I'm going to mention it again, that in the last few weeks, even though my father has not been fully conscious, I have been reading to him and talking to him. Several dear friends of mine who have had similar experiences of unconsciousness, if not coma, have said that they could remember clearly hearing things said to them while they could not communicate in return. And so that's another little piece of advice. I've been reading him mostly James Thurber short stories, and in fact I came across one that seems relevant to our political time. If you'll permit me to close with it and permit me to remove my glasses in order to do so. It is from his Fables for Modern Times, and this one is called The Peaceable Mongoose. Forgive me for doing it this way, but there is no better way. The Peaceable Mongoose by James Thurber. In cobra country, a mongoose was born one day who didn't want to fight cobras or anything else. The word spread from mongoose to mongoose that there was a mongoose who didn't want to fight cobras. If he didn't want to fight anything else, it was his own business, but it was the duty of every mongoose to kill cobras or be killed by cobras. Why? Asked the peace-like mongoose, and the word went around that the strange new mongoose was not only pro-cobra and anti-mongoose, but intellectually curious and against the ideals and traditions of mongoose-ism. He's crazy, cried the young mongoose's father. He is sick, said his mother. He is a coward, shouted his brothers. He is a mongoosexual, whispered his sisters. Strangers who had never laid eyes on the peace-like mongoose remembered that they had seen him crawling on his stomach or trying on cobra hoods, or plotting the violent overthrow of Mongoosia. I'm trying to use reason and intelligence, said the strange new mongoose. Reason is 6/7 of treason, said one of his neighbors. Intelligence is what the enemy uses, said another. Finally, the rumor spread that the mongoose had venom in his sting, just like a cobra, and he was tried, convicted by a show of paws, and condemned to banishment. Moral? Ashes to ashes and clay to clay. If the enemy doesn't get you, your own folks may.